Well, I found myself face down in the ditch, booze in my hair, blood on my lips, a picture of you holding a picture of me in the pocket of my blue jeans. Whoa, whoa.
Nene, you.
You too, bitch.
You. I don't need your
You
comments.
want to
You know what? I don't need your Get your finger out of my face.
You better watch
Get your
yourself.
finger
You
out
better
of my
watch
face.
yourself, trash.
What's up, everyone? In today's video, full motherfucking list here. I'm going to start off with more of the news-related topics and then get more into the cultural analysis. Okay, first off, it looks like Kazoo decided to do another airstrike in Syria. So fucked up. So fucked up. The only reason I heard about this is because the international channels that I watch that are pretty much all globalist leftists are all sort of like, wait a second, I thought you said you didn't like war. And now they're like, oh, I think we made the bad decision. Because they were so vehemently anti-Trump. And to see Trump do, not really anything in the Middle East except for move the American embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which we love so much. Oh, and dropping the mother of all bombs in, was that Afghanistan or something? So I'm not saying he didn't do nothing, but this whole Syria thing, they tried to push this whole chemical attacks situation in Syria, and then Trump responded by destroying an airfield or something, which was probably good because no civilians died, because maybe he sussed that it was fake, because then it came out, oops, we lied, there actually wasn't a chemical weapons attack. I feel for the Syrians. A lot of them are Christians. I feel a lot for the architecture, because in a lot of these cases, that's what gets dismantled. Think Dresden, Germany, which then it's that much more difficult to then go back and figure out, who am I again, when you identify so strongly with the architecture, which is why I believe architecture is the only genre left that's going to save us artistically and psychologically and get us out of this mess. Also, I learned that New Zealand, our fabulous Kiwis down under, they don't get the Kukarachi shot, or at least access to the Kukarachi shot, until July. Which is, strange to me, They're on an island, it's an isolated population, and it's a relatively fixed population. I don't know what their immigration data is, but it's why wouldn't you give... I'm all for people, resisting the Kukarachi shot. I don't obviously want anyone to take it, but I'm just thinking, why are they sitting on this for an isolated population? It just seems a little bit suspect. Are they given, the same Kukarachi shot that the rest of the world has been given? Is this a different form of the Kukarachi shot? I don't know, but I just thought it was strange that the public has zero access, even if they want to get the Kukarachi shot. And speaking of the Kukarachi shot, people realize, nothing in life is for free, right? So if they're offering, free medicine, but then charging you $1,200 for your diabetes medication, I hope people suss this out, that something else is going on here. I wonder, I really wonder. So I thought that was pretty fucked up. Also, am I so far right that I'm actually far left? I was thinking about this yesterday, and I'm far left, but not a leftist. And, far left in regards to, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, supreme freedom in those senses. I understand Mr. Ramsey, who we love so much, his point of view that most people can't handle freedom, and I would agree with that. But in this Aquarian age, I gotta say, the whole freedom of belief is really what it's really what I'm trying to push forward with. I think the astrology supports it, and I also think it's what people don't realize that they already want. It's the freedom to believe whatever they desire. So when it comes to leftism, I have no relationship with leftism, but those people are all, at least between 2017 and 2020, those people aren't leftists, those are fascists, all of the BLM, all the Antifa, all of that, that's all far right stuff. So does that make me far left? I'm fascist in return. the more right ideologies that I sustain are like monarchism. I think maybe a constitutional monarchy would probably be what I would bargain for, but a monarchy as a whole, I think, would be best for our people's culture. I think it is in our psychology to operate in a hierarchy, to operate in a hierarchical structure such as that. Though I want to sort of counterbalance that with then like some sort of absolute freedoms of expression to sort of, instead of like the heavy censorship, you instead balance with high art, if that makes sense. So I'm still trying to figure this out. I think I'm like I'm faith militant when it comes to any type of having a spiritual backdrop. Like I'm anti-atheism, if that makes sense. Anti-atheist, so I'm faith militant. I'm sorry, I don't mean to just sit here and self-label. I know it's nauseatingly boring, but I was thinking about that because everything's so like flip-flopped and backwards that because I'm so pro-free speech, that's like an authentic liberal value, but liberal is such a dirty word that I even like shudder thinking about that. And speaking of freedom of speech, the whole like, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater argument, I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm like, that's such a weak argument. Like, for people, first of all, I think society in general, society, and really the tech overlords, I think this is something that has been going on for a very, very long time, but there's this total fear of fire. It's like this sort of like anti-Prometheus mentality where fire is like, oh my gosh, it's just going to get out of control. And I'm not saying under certain circumstances that fires can spread rather quickly, but on the whole, as someone who's done a lot of burning, has a wood burning stove, just like understands fire somewhat. If someone were to shout fire in a crowded theater, I would like get up and sort of look and be like, is there a fire? It's like, I think people think there's like this instant, I think they think fire and bomb are two of the same things. They think that like, if there was a fire, I would like look around and be like, oh, okay, I see smoke, I'll get out of the theater. I can like deduce that, something is going on. I'm not going to limit that person's freedom of speech just because I'm, and as someone who's claustrophobic, I don't necessarily like being in a closed environment with a lot of random ass people. But when it comes to the whole fire argument, because that's always what they do, is they say, well, you can't shout fire in a crowded theater. It's like, why can't you? It's like automatically someone says that one syllable word and you just all of a sudden act all retarded and start running the fuck all everywhere, I don't understand that. I don't understand that argument at all. Like, I would be able to get up. Even if there was a fire, it only can spread so quickly, depending what's burning, etc. Like, a lot of times, to keep a fire going and sustaining itself, it requires a lot of energy. And if there's no movement from, like, wind or anything, it's just going to burn itself out. Just like you are, you dumb fucking twat. You should be able to discern if there's a fire or not. That's the intellectual bar I require in my new country. And there's no argument that's going to limit free speech especially in that such a banal bourgeois way. Let's see here. If you're going to wear a mask, can you at least not hang it from your motherfucking car mirror? I fucking hate seeing that. Stylistically, it just, when I see people with their fucking gross ass mask like dangling like a testicle sack from their car mirror, I hate that. I fucking hate that. Please don't do that. It makes me upset. Here, a cure for homosexuality. If you keep the sexes largely apart, you decrease homosexuality. But when you bring them together for all moments of their day, you have an increase in homosexuality. I think that's true. I think you see the same thing in ancient Babylon and ancient Rome and in the past, 40, 50 years, as we've moved from largely an agrarian society to this more mechanical, tech-savvy society where men and women pretty much are doing the same sort of clerical laptop jobs. And because there's no distinction between the day-to-day lives of the sexes, I feel like that's where you get these upticks in homosexuality. I'm not saying the same thing exactly occurs with transgenderism. I think it's subtly a bit more different. But in regards to homosexuality, if you want to decrease homosexuality, then the world of men and the world of women have to be largely separate for the majority of the day. You can come together at like maybe dinner or food. It seems to be the most appropriate way to come together and sort of mingle, and of course the naughty sexy time. Because argue me this, the best sex is comparable to a really, really, really great meal with an old friend. But other than that, I feel like there's the world of men and the world of women. And since we don't have that anymore, I feel like that's another reason why homosexuality goes skyrockets. And I mean like true homosexuality, because I think one thing that really you can tell like a real homosexual from like the fake technocratic commoditized homosexual is their conversational ability, because of what I believe causes homosexuality in men specifically. A mother that's too close, and she sort of uses the son as a confidant to get their the emotional needs and the conversational needs met that she's not getting from her husband, because there's this thing where it's like you sit down for dinner and all of a sudden the woman is like talk, and the man just doesn't want to like talk about stuff like that, more silent, more reserved. So instead of going to female friends and other matriarchal people, the mother goes towards the son, and then sort of implants all of that conversational prowess onto him. And I think that is another reason why gay men in particular, real gay men, happen to have like greater conversational capabilities. There's this more like this intuitive, perceptual way of judging conversation. I think that's also stimulated by being in multi-generations of women at a young age. It's not just the mother, but also then the mother taking the son and putting him in a situation with like great-grandma, grandmother, like aunts, other females, and they then learn how women on like a subconscious level, because remember, you're young, you're like fucking 6 years old, and you're just absorbing all of this up, all of these unconscious, all of these like nonverbal cues on how people read each other, how women read each other. And from there, then they use that as like a perceptual way to navigate the world, since they tend to have problems connecting with other men, myself included. But yeah, I think if you keep the sexes, together and doing the same things, and there's like this fusion, you're never going to get homosexuality to decrease at all. Also, I don't really blame black people for getting upset that gay people sort of tacked on to their whole like civil rights thing. Obviously, like slavery was like bad, but the gays decided that their experiences equaled the experience of blacks, and I'm not a fan of like reparations or anything like that, but the gays like really crowded into that room, and then they decided like we deserve the same protections. And I don't know. I don't think like you should value different groups higher than another, but the way the gays sort of latched on to the colored civil rights, and then later like the trans people then jumping on, it's like no wonder why the blacks feel like they can't breathe, because all of these fucking queers are in their goddamn house. And a whole, this has been absolutely disastrous for the gay community. Okay, because it's really bred this sense of entitlement, like again, equating the black experience with the gay experience. I'm not saying one's worse or better than the other, but they're very, very different, and so to say that they have the same sort of triggers and psychological woes as each other, it just doesn't work like that. And pandering doesn't work like that. Like the left is already eating each other, but it will continue to eat each other. But yeah, the sense of entitlement that is rampant in the gay community, that's not like real That's not real homosexuality. That's like, I'm protected, you're a bigot, you know? Like, real homosexuals are able to, like, stand up for themselves and protect themselves linguistically, physically, you know? These other people, these quislings, are nothing of the kind. Oh, 2 last comments before I stop rambling, but I think this has all been interesting conversation. Don't you love it so much? There's a whole community on the internet, this whole, like, train of thought of people who try to figure out and deduce which, like, stars that they're from, and, like, the galaxy systems, whether they're from, you know, Andromeda or some of the other ones. And I don't believe that at all. Again, I won't go into it because I'll get everyone to fucking unsubscribe, but the way I view this realm is very different. I don't think there's anything out there. I'm not saying stars don't necessarily exist, but that whole concept, I think, is very, very much distorted. And what I mean to say about these communities that are trying to trace their lineages back to different, like, starseed galaxies, I think that's indicative of this whole bloodline entanglement that's happened here on Earth, and it's showing itself tangibly, psychologically, tangibly. You know, that distance is shown, and, like, how, you know, it's me, and then my family is way off in that far-flung galaxy way out there. You know, it's not, wait a second, my bloodline is all messed up here on Earth in this realm. I'm from, like, this part of the world, and, you know, everything's been sort of tangled together, and there's this fusion of the bloodlines, so you don't know your family, you know? And so these people, they're looking for this answer that's, like, way out there, when really the answer, once again, is inside here, specifically the blood, and knowing where the hell you came from, which is why I push the bloodline stuff so much, and this whole distorted anthropological view, this Marxist agenda that's fueled this whole, like, out of Africa, like, we was kings type mentality, where people just don't know where they came from. That's what's largely leading to this sense of dislocation, you know, that they really feel that they're from way, way out there. That's how far away that they've gotten from their own family lineages, in my opinion. Come at me. And then the last thing is a more pleasant subject, and that has to do with music and dance and sound and how people experience music now. This isn't anything new, but, like, in the olden days when you would go out and, like, dance, you would listen to music, and there's these big speakers, you know? These big speakers are like you're at a concert, and, like, you're experiencing the music, like, physically, you know, like, you can feel the bass line, and it's like this, you know, it just, like, really takes you over. Whereas, like, now you hear everything, like, in these little, like, earbuds, and, like, everything's, like, the fingertips, and everything, like, all the sound is, like, way, way up here. It's like, there's no, like, bass line, where, like, the speakers, like, you were able to, like, feel the vibration. And I think the psychologically we're not going to be able to move, because I think music is a big key here. We're not going to be able to move psychologically until we can literally feel the vibrations of the music. So I think our experience of music has to change. I know they don't want us, like, at concerts and stuff anymore because of the fake pancake. Please put Susan with Jackie on the phone now! Another reason why. You realize that the number one copywritten thing is music? Like, that's the first thing that they always go after, because it's a perfect way in connecting with people and, you know, changing the frequency. Music does that perfectly. But no, you even get, like, 3 seconds of a song and you are, like, forbidden forever. It's all about, like, the different methodologies of how to change another's frequency. Music is a great way to do it. Music, like, outside that you can physically experience, is a great way to do it. That's how they did it, you know, in the 60s. And I think, to a lesser extent, the whole resurgent of vinyl music, it's not, again, like the amount of speakers, but because there's, like, a physicality to it, you know, with you put the thing down and then the music spins, and though you don't necessarily feel the spinning, I feel like on, like, a etherical, very sensual level, you can feel the music. And you hear it slightly differently too, and I think that contributes to a better overall experience and understanding of the music. But also just, like, the whole Muslim thing, like, smiling, like, a smile to someone And not to be all like gay about it, but like a smile at the right time, conveying the right message, you can totally change someone's frequency, okay? But when everyone's wearing a Muslim and they're all in the same fucking frequency of just this boring nihilistic world, it's just like this dystopia, you know? But if you're able to smile, all of a sudden one smile. Again, this is nonverbal. It doesn't even require you to actually make a frequency. It's totally nonverbal. And you can change someone else's a whole perception of like what's going on, their mood, their entire frequency. So I think, if my sources are correct here, the last time in the 60s, sort of like cosmic consciousness, which we're exactly mirroring today, but with one big distinction, and that is that musically and culturally, last time Neptune was in Scorpio, and Scorpio, of course, rules the sex glands, but Scorpio also, I think, led to the whole sexual revolution in the 60s. Now, however, Neptune is in Pisces, where it's strongest, and I'm just not so sure, if it's in Pisces where it's its strongest, but I think it relates to a new spiritual revolution. And I don't mean like necessarily like, oh, we're all turning to Christ or anything like that. I think it's the freedom, because remember, this is an Aquarian age, so it has to do with freedom, but it's not freedom from like sexuality, it's freedom from spirituality, it's freedom of belief. It's being able to say, no, I believe this, and you can't just put fucking Wikipedia articles under everything that I say, just like saying that I shouldn't be believed. You know, it's the freedom of belief that's really bubbling up to the surface. And I feel there's like this spiritual dimension to it, but there's also this like familial bloodline element to it, where music, specifically folk music like Moribund or Auld Lang Syne, music like that evokes this sort of, there's like a masculine quality to it, but there's also this like camaraderie, this union element to it. And that's where I think music, the breakthroughs that we're going to largely have in the next 2 to 3 to 4 years are going to be in the folk realm. Think like John Denver. Those are my thoughts. I would love to argue with anyone about them, because I know a lot of it's just pulling it out of the ether because I'm a psychic of the world of YouTube. But let me know your thoughts on all of that mumbo jumbo. I will shut up now, and I'll talk to you all soon. Love you so much. Bye.
It's a MrTheron production.